And from that, should we get depressed again? Business news, Charles Pellegrins here. Sorry, Charles. Couldn't help it, can't help it. Talking about the collapse of a ruling coalition, it's very depressing. This is in Germany, partly because of irreconcilable differences on economic policies, Charles.
I still take slight offense at the fact that business news is necessarily depressing, but in this case, it's not great. Chancellor Olaf Scholz of the Social Democrats in Germany dismissing his finance minister and head of the pro-business FDP party, Christian Lindner, over ideological differences regarding public finances. Scholz wants to suspend the country's strict rules limiting new borrowing in order to help plug a budget shortfall in next year's budget, as well as to help the country's struggling manufacturing sector, tackle climate change investments, and strengthen the military. All of this became especially urgent with Trump's victory and the prospect of a potential U.S.-EU trade war and a potential shift in the U.S.'s defense commitments towards the European bloc. But Lindner has stood firmly against any changes to fiscal discipline, saying that this is what has made Germany's strength in the past and allowed it not to spend too much money paying off accumulated debt and rising interest.
His counter-proposals are dull, unambitious, and make no contribution to overcoming the fundamental weakness of growth in our country so that we can maintain our prosperity, our social security, and our ecological responsibility. Unfortunately, Olaf Scholz has shown that he does not have the strength to enable our country to make a new start.
Well, media reports in Germany this Thursday saying an advisor to Scholz, Jörg Kukes, will now be named finance minister instead of Lindner.
So what are the rules then that the Scholz government wants to suspend, Charles?
This is Germany's famous debt brake, introduced as a concept in 2009, right after the global financial crisis under conservative Chancellor Angela Merkel's leadership. It basically demands that the federal government, as well as regional ones, don't spend more money than they take in revenue. The Constitution saying that budgets need to be balanced without revenue from credits. This became legally binding in 2016. But there is some wiggle room to borrow so long as it is limited to 0.35% of GDP. Scholz would like more flexibility with regards to these rules, especially with added pressure from the European Union to increase spending on defense and start joint borrowing at a bloc level.
You know, the country facing a pretty dire economic situation.
Germany has really not recovered from the dual shocks that were the pandemic and the energy crisis brought on by Russia's full-scale invasion of Ukraine, and now has a stagnant economy. This is especially apparent in the manufacturing sector. So this is the Purchasing Managers Index, which assesses whether the manufacturing sector is expanding or contracting with a point system. So over 50, which is that line in yellow at the top of your screen there, that means expansion. Below 50 means contraction. As you can see here, over the past 8 months, the sector has contracted every single month. And actually, this has been going much longer. The trend has been going on since July 2022. So on the back of slowing demand from abroad, especially China, higher borrowing costs, and structural issues like the cost of labor, economists forecast that Germany could be facing a second consecutive year of GDP contraction in 2024.
I told you it was depressing, Charles. Let's move in. We're going to check now on the stock markets for you.
In Europe, at the open this Thursday, markets either flat or mixed. The FTSE in London slightly higher ahead of an expected rate cut announcement from the Bank of England at midday. The DAX in Frankfurt just below the flat line amid that political turmoil in Berlin.
Now we've got nervousness now in China and elsewhere about Donald Trump's tariff plans.
That's right. Trump has said it is his favorite word in the English dictionary, and he's promised to apply them on imports from all over the world. Well, Emily Boyle has more on what that might mean for the U.S. and the global economy.
As the world prepares for a second Trump term, many are bracing for the aggressive tariffs synonymous with his presidency.
Look, I had a lot of tariffs. I took it. The most beautiful word in the dictionary to me is tariff.
The president-elect campaigned on a mandate of cutting taxes and increasing tariffs. He suggested a 10% tariffs on all imports and a 60% one on Chinese-made products.
Well, I mean, the trade war between the US and China is, I would say, a problem for the European Union, because European Union and Germany, they pretty much depend also on China with respect to trade politics.
Studies have found that the suggested policies could reduce China's GDP, but also have knock-on effects on other economies. Certain European sectors, and in particular Germany's automobile exports, would be most at risk. While it is not certain how these policies will be implemented, it is also unclear what impact they could have on American markets. One economist warns it ultimately hurts consumers.
A tariff is a tax. It's a tax on goods and services that you buy that come from another country. So you, the consumer, are going to pay for that tax, and you're going to be hurt the most.
According to the non-partisan think tank Tax Foundation, the proposed tariffs could cost Americans $524 billion annually in the US and would shrink GDP by at least 8%.
That's it for the depressing business news.
Charles, thank you very much. You light up our lives every time, every day at this time. Charles Pellegrin, our business editor.